2 years since I seen home. 2 years. It's fucking war.
At 0600 hours, we will begin training to go to war.
This is not dog company. This is easy company. The first and finest company in this regiment.
Each trooper will learn this operation by heart and know his mission to the detail.
We're invading Europe, my friend.
All you have to do is remember what you were taught. I guarantee you gravity will take care of the rest.
We are on the eve of the largest action in the history of warfare.
It's Normandy.
We all do our jobs. Everything will be fine.
Scared. We're all scared.
What made you decide to join the paratroopers?
Fire! I wanted to fight with the best, sir.
Tonight, we're gonna have to cross the river.
These crowds are gonna catch some hell.
We're gonna have to find another way into Germany.
Easy, you'll head up the mountain through the Obersalzberg. Take the Eagle's Nest.
Man, it's been a long war. It's been a tough war. We fought bravely, proudly for your country. We're a special group. We found in one another a bond that exists only in combat.
Once again, we're doing a triple feature. That's right. We're going into the docudrama, three-part series based around the happenings of the exploitive Easy Company and the 101st Airborne Division. That's chronicled over 3 series, all produced by Tom Hanks' Playtone and Spielberg's Amblin Company. The first 2 are for HBO. The recent is for Apple TV, all to various acclaim. And I figured I'd have another voice in the room, Trevor Smigelski from the one, the only Theater of War podcast.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
And no sunshine, like the various flashes in the sky from all the artillery.
I'm being able to walk my way over through the flak. I can walk my way to Berlin.
Yeah, you can actually see the sky. You're not you're not seeing just ricocheting shells bouncing over your head. It's a good day.
Yeah, my worst day is probably like their best day, or vice versa. So I don't have to worry about being bayonet charged by Japanese soldiers or getting schwacked by a 16-year-old conscript from the Hitler Youth, or
oh God,
being turned into human ragu at the end of a
no
88
converting
millimeter cannon.
You're good to go. No converting, nothing. You're fine. I work security, but I can honestly say it is not like the movies, guys. You do not look forward to getting shot in the face at the beginning of your shift. It's pretty straightforward. So
Yeah.
you were a observer previously in the Marines.
Yes.
Are you one of the many who kind of look for some kind of accuracy when you watch a movie, or are you kind of more like it depends on the tone or what you're in the mood for?
Kind of column A, column B. Give you a great example of that. My wife and I, like, she really enjoyed The Kingsman, or The Kingsman, and like when The Kingsman came out, and me being the World War One nut or history nut I am, I had to stop the movie every 10 or 15 minutes to explain the historical context, what's going on. Meanwhile, I could hear my wife's eyes roll into the back of her head as I am stopping the movie to give her a mini history lesson when she can really care less.
It's like, I'm sorry.
But then there's also times when I can just exactly. She's like, "That's okay, nerd." She says it lovingly. But then there's times like with Fury, like I love Fury. It's one of my favorite.
I saw that in the theaters.
Yeah, I did too.
My brother was wiped out, and what's so funny is we ran into a former college friend of mine at that time, and he's not used to our way of kind of interacting with the movie. Like we're pretty quiet, but every once in a while we might let out a small, like, kind of Mystery Science Theater kind of diss, but not to where we're interfering with the movie. But most of the time we kind of keep it as we're laughing, or we'll even just go badass, just. And you want to talk war? The closest I've been to a Charles Bronson-esque crowd was probably watching all three Olympus Has Fallen movies in theaters. Those guys were crazy. Like, they were at a Seagal type, kill him. I'm like, Jesus, guys, it's just a movie. So it is always unusual what kind of interaction you get.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of pick, like, some people like, oh, that wasn't historically accurate. It's like the end of Fury was like just the wave on wave of the human waves of German soldiers.
Didn't you encounter other people?
It's not historically accurate, but damn, that was a really cool sequence.
There's gamers who talk shit. I'm like, you weren't even paying attention in history class. Shut up. But then there's other ones where it's like, okay, I get that you care, but then I don't know. When I saw people doing this lately with the show Vikings, I'm like, well,
oh yeah,
it's a lot to have to take in and say that's bullshit. You only got the manuscripts to go on. But yeah, no, there's some good war movies, and don't get me wrong, you can enjoy Rambo, and then personally, I don't even know why they try to get the. Is this true that they have to flip the ranking logo so it's not an infringement on the military logo?
I've never heard that before, actually.
Okay, so it's probably some dog shit dishwasher.
I think it's dog shit because you're not doing it in public.
I worked on a shitty amateur war movie. If
you do that, more than likely, if you do that, you're going to get called out for that instead of being like.
That's what I thought so too. Unless you're the A team where you're like, we're a fictional, covert ops team. Like, I saw someone saying this. And
John Cena being a Marine.
Oh, jeez.
I saw that in theaters. When you're stuck in, so it was.
Let me guess, the audience was invisible.
I mean, the only audience there was the residents of Lawton, Oklahoma. So give you an idea of what life in Lawton, Oklahoma is like. You can either look at the brown nothing that is Oklahoma, or you can go see John Cena pretend to act. Those are your choices.
No, there's not a C. There's not a plan free.
Damn it. I mean, there's other things to do in Lawton, but it's more of how far do your morals, ebb and flow, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. But mostly like Midway, I get into arguments all the time with my wargamer friend because I play historical war games, and
oh sweet,
like, oh man, Midway was the worst fucking movie ever, blah 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 blah. It's like, yes, I understand there were no Wildcats in the movie Midway. I get that. I will say that there was probably a budget constraint. There was a lot going on. They probably should have named the movie Enterprise. Yeah. They probably should have named the movie Enterprise, and it would have been like, okay, cool, no problem. It takes place on the Enterprise. It's all about the dive bombers and the torpedo bombers. It had nothing to do there. Yeah, there was a lot there that they could have done, but you have to admit that they kept it moving along. You were able to follow the storyline. They didn't just hinge everything on Pearl Harbor. it was a ton of fun to watch. It was great. It was fun to watch in theaters. I was like,
Sometimes that's all
I
you
wasn't
need.
mad about it. Yeah, there are
Sometimes
discrepancies.
movies. Are you noticing this more with movies now that I'm? Well, we'll get into it deeper, guys. We're just getting warmed up. But I'm finding that some movies you should just literally just watch once. Like that is meant. It is meant to be in and out. It was meant to be cinematic junk food. And I see other people, they want to analyze everything the minute it comes to Blu-ray. I'm like, you're gonna find stuff you weren't supposed to see now. And now that it's in Blu-ray, nothing's invisible.
Exactly. It's gonna those rose tinted lenses are gonna come right off.
Oh man.
Yeah.
People
you look even like the classic war movies. A lot of times they were just bullshit. Like Battle of the Bulge is supposed to be this classic war movie. It's dog shit. It's not. It's not good. It's not. It's not a great movie. It has nothing.
That's what I've noticed too. Like I would see people talk about that one. I'm like, well, so I'll take the historian's word for it, but man, what an empty excuse for a movie. And you got an ensemble cast, so Kelly's Heroes, Dirty Dozen is not.
No, and those popcorn, pulpy kind of man on a mission movies that it's like, you know what, I'll take that over your weird revisionist style of history, I guess.
There's a lot of that too. Yeah.
Happening here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like people are getting even dumber.
Green Berets is another example. The Green Berets is just nothing but just garbage propaganda. It's like you expect John Wayne, who's like, I don't know, 6.5 feet tall, can barely walk. He's either drunk or and he's like,
he doesn't really lead them. He kind of just orders them while standing still. Yeah,
exactly. He's kind of like the Steven Seagal of his era.
He really is, and this is before the Genghis Khan movie.
I don't know if he's ever kidnapped a woman and held her hostage, but
he's not a trafficker, but he is a racist, so there is that.
If you found out he was, you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I'm actually about to get this way with like other filmmakers, like because I'm not saying they'll be like Luc Besson, where you got to keep the art separate from the piece of shit filmmaker, but it is almost kind of to that point where I'm like, parts of you are about to bleed on screen to where I have to question you now, And I'm seeing some themes not too different from the latest tabloid I heard about you, so
it's like, goddamn, I was like, why?
Gotta wonder.
It's like Rosemary's Baby is a great horror flick. Goddamn, Roman Polanski, you should just go right.
Yeah.
You need a dirt nap, buddy.
You need to go for a swim in the ocean and not come back up for air.
Yep.
But I'm that way with Woody Allen. I'm like, all these great romantic comedies and hitman dramas and just period piece satires, and what a piece of shit in real life. But fortunately, with these, no luck finding any douchebag behind the scenes. So that's a relief. Pretty good here.
I think they're good. Yeah, good track record with them.
Yeah. So I mean, Band of Brothers was kind of. Well, we'll go straight into that one. That's the one that started it all. I mean, I'd always heard about various miniseries, but like this was kind of acclaimed for not only the Emmy and the Golden Globe, but also just kind of bringing it back, and next thing you know, everyone wanted to jump back on it instead of just have it be a, Ken Burns PBS special, or, Spielberg kind of did this with TNT more often. And this was kind of another thing. It's just like, he brought his From the Earth to the Moon guys onto here. And this, every person I've heard about that chronicles all the rise of cable TV, is like they HBO left them alone. They're just like, we don't always care for every movie or show that we produce, but this was one where they're like, this is going to be great. Let the powers be. Michael Kamen's final score as a composer, and I don't know why I get very mushy just hearing that every time History Channel does a uncut marathon of all 10 parts. And I mean, this was kind of my Sopranos 24 growing up, where we would collect the DVDs from Blockbuster. My father would videotape this for grandparents and give it to them next door. It just they didn't have the premium channel, so it was always kind of despite being mature audience, it was kind of kind of like the Matrix, where no one gave a shit about the rating. They're just like, we're watching this.
Yeah, exactly.
All that Foley, all those semi-known and rising actors, and I love how so many of them have still to this day reunited with co-producer, co-writer Graham Yost on other stuff like Boomtown and Justified since. And every time I always light them up, and it's so funny. Not everyone knows their names, but they always go, "Oh, that guy, he's on Homeland now." Ron Livingston, wasn't he in the Office Space too? Yeah.
Yeah. And, like it's crazy to see, like, I was like almost a jumping off point for a lot of these actors, like even Tom Hanks's kid, and like Tom Hardy being 24 years old, and now
Simon Pegg in that same episode, I think.
Exactly, yeah, Simon Pegg having his having his one episode,
and these were actual battles, and kind of that there was a movie I think called Attack with Jack Palance. A guy loses an arm or something, but like this was way more realistic. And my sister and other peers of mine who were in different classes, believe it or not, would actually be shown the Holocaust episode in their respective college just as part of their history tutorial. And it's just nothing but natural truth just on the outer rim of this bad boy of a show. Just and I mean, you have David Schwimmer. This was one of the first shows where I was seeing comedic actors, play against type, and seeing him as the Lieutenant Colonel Sobel, who leads by fear than by example, and how Winters, Damian Lewis's character, who keeps rising through the ranks, has to pretty much be the go-to guy. Here's how you parachute. Here's how you snipe. Here's how you.
And then you have guys like Captain Spears and Buck Compton, those guys who were the officers who kept them together. And then you had the NCOs, and it's just like you really got the good feel of what a chain of command in a functioning combat arms unit, like when they're clicking, they're unbeatable.
Oh man. And spoiler for a 20-plus-year-old miniseries everyone should have seen.
If you haven't watched this miniseries, you need to reevaluate your life.
Yes, I'm going to quote Star Wars: "Go home and reevaluate your life." But yeah, Michael Cudlett's character Bull, and Scott Grimes from ER as Donald, as the technical sergeant, and Frank John Hughes as Wild Bill, who's always trying to hunt down a nurse to sleep with. And those guys were interesting just because they were probably, unfortunately, the toxic males probably of their day and age, but I like how it just sums up just how they're in an adult body, but they got the youth, the locker room part. But fortunately, they do a good job of also showing the various, spam in a can and suit up, but it's not, like Schwarzenegger in Commando. It is like legit, like you feel the sweat in the room, it's able to appeal to all kinds of people without feeling like just a testosterone, male only audience.
They weren't the muscle bound, steely jaw.
They're ready to rock and roll.
They look like a guy who just drove a taxi, who worked they did a really good job casting this, because the average age was your average
16, right?
16, 18 for like your enlisted, maybe like 20, 21 for your officers. Like these were not old dudes. They were young kids. They were working steel mills and working in 9 to 5 and salt of the earth types. And then you had like the Souls and the guys who kind of came from more money and silver spoon in their mouths. But
yes. Oh man.
Yeah, that and you really feel it like that. But then as the series goes on, you can see like what I describe people, people tell me is like, oh, you're not old. I'm like, well, for me, it's the mileage, not the age. And you can definitely see the mileage piling up, especially in those later episodes after the the Battle of the
Great job on the makeup. And
like if you look at like Malarkey, I think he's a great example of that. You see him in the first episode, he's just kind of this
what a great name.
clean cut.
That's a
Yeah, exactly.
load of malarkey. Yeah, Scott Grimes. Yeah, Donald.
Scott
Yeah,
Grimes. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You know, you go from there, and then you see that last
I
episode
think
where
this was the
he's
first thing I
told.
saw him in, I think.
Um, I think this was the first thing I saw him, and then then he popped up all of a sudden on these Seth
Right.
MacFarlane thing. Like I love him in the Orville. I
Yeah,
think he's hysterical.
absolutely. The next 30 years, that's all he does, but that's fine. You know, like he's already proved what he can do dramatically. So I'm like,
Exactly. He's like you have range because he's
Eon
very funny. He's
Bailey.
very funny. His comedic timing is
Yeah.
really impressive.
Oh, totally.
And then
But
yeah, but then like in the last when they're getting ready to like basically punch out, and they're told like, hey, you have to go on a mission. And he's like, are you kidding me? I've survived this long. I don't want to die on a stupid mission. Like you can just see like I just think it's fat. Like you really got to pay attention to that. It's really cool.
They much like many of these HBO shows, I call it the Sopranos cold open. You see a lot of it now on Barry as well, but like they would do the whole, just let it just kind of just kind of a dramatic pause. But I'm not talking Shatner level. Like they just are breathing in, and they say everything they need to say, as opposed to have more jargon.
Yeah,
and it's just, you never feel like you're being preached to. You never feel like they're stating the obvious that a billion other movies and shows have already done and better. You know, it's like it finds its own identity. But yeah, that is a good point. He is ready to go, and then there's still, you know, much like any. We see a lot of this with our day-to-day jobs, where we're just like, seriously, there has got to be one other person you can call besides me.
Yeah,
I just got home.
exactly. It's like
I actually do get this a lot with my security job, where I'm like, I have already set up 5 different plans today. No, sir. I will help tomorrow. I am not helping tonight.
Yeah, I'm in security longer. I'm trying to get out of it, but like you get that call, it's like, oh, it's the end of the shift.
That's what sucks too. And they will play the loyalty card too, to where I'm like, what is this, a mob ring? No. I'm loyal to my check. I'm loyal to my family.
You're on my time now, guys.
Oh man, this was probably the first thing I saw Staff Sergeant Joe in, and that's played by Kirk Acevedo. You've probably seen him on Fringe and Oz as Miguel. He was also previously in The Thin Red Line, and it does seem to have a lot of the same production value as Saving Private Ryan. I think that's why this was a cool companion piece. That one was loosely based on an actual. And see, that's another one. I see people shit on that movie now. And I'm like,
I'm kind of in that group. Only so the Omaha scene, yes, you know, it was groundbreaking because before then, we really never had anything that intense. Like Richie actually show combat and how the chaos of and granted, that was a minuscule amount of D-Day. Like my wife's grandfather lost his leg on Utah. D-Day +2, he lost his leg. Yeah, but
I think it helps that my parents were I think it helps that my mom was a military brat, so I was always hanging around her old man. But I knew about the whole. It's like the only movie I know where they talk about the whole keeping the bloodline alive. But yes, mostly everyone just knows it as just the rescue mission movie, which it's not really about. But
no, and then you start like at first I didn't. It wasn't until after the military and kind of spend my time in a leadership position. You start looking at this guy's like, why are you taking 6 guys and assaulting a hardened and placed machine gun bunker with no sort of support by fire, none of this stuff. Okay, you're trying to get okay, and you just killed your medic. Congratulations, Tom Hanks, you just killed your medic. Like that, like you really start like, nah, this isn't really that great. And then the end with those weren't tiger. It was like one of them was supposed to be a tiger. It's like then I started getting.
I know
well, that's
bomber,
not exactly right.
I know that bomber wouldn't have been there. That's all I know.
No, exactly. And then,
but it is kind of parts Schindler's, parts Indiana Jones Adventure. It's the one.
It is it's a man on a mission movie. And what pissed me off still this day is that they called the P-51s tank busters. Like the P-51 Mustang, which was never a tank buster. That would be the P-47 Thunderbolt because that's my baby. That's my.
What about the
52s?
Oh,
what's that?
I'm being an asshole. I was like, what about the 52s? Oh, No
They don't
love
get no
shack
love.
in that tank. Damn it.
Yeah, I'm like, well, they wouldn't be doing that because those P-51s would be flying escort missions with bombers. Why are they here? That'd be a
Yeah.
P-47. Who called that in? Like, who called? It's like, there's no forward air controller. There's nobody. It's like,
I always took it
this
as
is
one of
frustrating.
them signaled, but yeah.
It may be. I mean,
I will give you
that's
this.
especially definitely.
I'll give you this. They downplayed the British involvement, and
Yeah.
Robert Rodat always seemed to me like he just was one of those. He always hated the British because then you see the Patriot, which he wrote. I'm like,
Oh my God.
and it's so funny how Braveheart was kind of the
Braveheart.
go-to
Exactly.
movie.
It's like it's Braveheart Part 2.
Without that, you don't get Gladiator, you don't get Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. They're going for that realistic medieval kind of look, but then you look at it and you're like, so what did he do again? What? And that they didn't dress up that way. What?
The Patriot about a guy who's supposed to be based on a real person who was a slave owner.
Who was also he raped the slaves.
Okay.
He's the good guy.
Yeah, Francis Marion was a good person.
And he's played by Mel Gibson. Irony.
Oh yeah, he's a beacon of understanding and
to quote Mr. Science
cultural
Theater.
sensitivity.
To quote Mr. Science Theater's Mitchell, the hero of the movie, everyone. Oh man, I'm sorry. We're just it is funny how like this miniseries, it doesn't bring up any doubt like any other movie that. And I think the other issue with every other movie is if you watch it too many times, you're gonna find shit that just sticks out like a sore thumb now, where you're just like, wait, what?
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you gotta sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in, it's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out. So to that overall point, yeah, and
I think it's the dad in me. Like, as soon as it starts coming on, like I have to stand and watch, and then I get that sudden urge to go smoke random meats. I think that's just. I think I've hit that point of almost middle age, but also dad. So it's like you hear, like you said, like you hear that opening theme, like I guess it's time to watch this.
It's that time of day. Any other movie or show, I will turn off and just get out the Blu-ray or see if it's on streaming so I can watch it commercial free. But then there are other ones where it's like, nothing else matters right now. This is that rare deal. This is like early Michael Mann.
This is like Pavlov's dog.
Pavlov's dog.
Like that. I think that's when I started salivating. Like, what the hell is happening?
Oh.
Have you read the book though, Band of Brothers by Stephen Ambrose?
I think I attempted, and it was just before. It was very, very, very thick history, but yeah, Ambrose is a very important guy, and that's actually what connects the Pacific. His son was the consultant on that. But yeah, I did give it a skim one day, and years ago, I want to say circa 06, and it was very much like the narration with the actual survivors you see at the beginning of each episode, where it's just like, man, but these guys are not liars at all. And I mean, much like Scotty on Star Trek was served on D-Day and recounted
Mhm.
how he feels every gunshot wound every time he watches a war movie. Is the same kind of deal here, where he's just like, yeah, but again, this is a step above to either side. We're just like, now we are trying to get the bunker lifestyle. We're trying to get, episode 1, that's by Phil Alden Robinson helming it. You might know from Sneakers and Field of
Mhm.
Dreams. And I just love how we're getting a sense of the training as opposed to the whole I'm a soldier boy waiting on to see my loved one. It
Yeah.
pretty much ditches that and they go straight into just cleaning up and just
The day-to-day life of an
yeah.
army, conscript enlistee, and there's no sort of safety practices.
Yes.
And you really look all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, well, if it's too hot, we can't train. And it's like back then, it's like, oh, you died from heat stroke. That means you're weak. Be a man, smoke a cigarette,
Yeah.
walk it off.
They show the insensitive generals, but they give you you pretty much always get that inch of hope in the last 20 minutes where you're like, okay, maybe something's good is gonna come out of this, as opposed to, feeling nothing but just overwhelmed. But at the same time, like they don't talk it up to where it's tough to keep track of anyone. And I think that's why I will sometimes just sit down and just watch a scene,
Yeah,
sometimes if
you
it
get
comes up
invested
on
in these
YouTube.
guys.
Yeah.
And then when things start happening to some of them, you're like, oh no, you actually get like, you feel for them. I think that's this one in particular. I think that's what got everybody. That's why it has such a legacy about it, is that you get attached to these guys. You get
Yes.
like you're in the
They love
foxhole
each
with them.
other as more than just trooper pal. They're actually best friends. It's not just simple coincidence like we went to the same high school. It's
Mhm.
they're respecting each other, but also, and again, it's just with all these people who want to get it right. Kudos to them bringing Del Dye back on. The military consultant guy.
It's like in case of military movie break glass, it's just Dale Dye standing behind it.
You come from Platoon to this, yep. Oh man, and I actually didn't know that Jamie Bamber and Fassbender and some of these other guys were on there, but that makes sense, and
Yeah.
even
There's
other
another one.
people who were
Yeah,
kind of
it's
the
like
go-to.
it's
David Andrews,
so
Corey
bizarre.
Johnson, all these
Yep.
people. When you see them in a movie now, all they play now are dads or Joint Chiefs, on a West Wing.
You're like, I remember when you were just nothing but nothing private and an Easy Company. What happened?
That guy, I don't know
to
your
you?
name, but you rock, man. But yeah,
I
James
remember you died in
McAvoy.
Operation Market Garden. Now you're Professor Xavier. Cool.
Dominic Cooper, holy fuck, he was on this, of course. I forgot that Jimmy Fallon was in a blink and a miss moment.
Yeah, he was. Thankfully, even though he could have
Yes.
been one of the, if there would have been a German sniper there.
This is the perfect example of just someone we can't stand who's somehow they had their shit together. They realized we had. That's what I'm finding with every other celebrity. I mean, I'm looking at older movies every once in a while from the 80s and 90s, and I'll every once in a while I will be like, man, remember when Stacey Dash or Gwyneth Paltrow or Tom Cruise actually came to work instead of just be a nincompoop on set all day. And it's just saddening because you look at all these other people, it's like, I don't think they're even spoiled by success. I really think they have dropped their marbles and no one is man enough to tell them, hey, you're being a piece of shit right now.
Yeah.
But your last movie made $5 billion, so I can't justify firing you, which is garbage. I don't care who you are. If you're making me miserable, you got to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never. I know Neil McDonald is a little off color with his politics off screen, but I hear he's a pro on set. But as Buck, as the first lieutenant, it made sense to me how I saw him in every other kind of military type movie after this. Donnie Wahlberg, probably the first thing I saw him in this.
Oh yeah, probably was too. And it's like you went from being an '80s teen,
the boy band,
boy band heartthrob to being one of the best characters, I think.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then he winds up in Saw. It's like, what the hell happened?
Oh man,
that was an arc.
What an arc! Oh man.
Then you had
and I never put it together growing up, seeing him in Sixth Sense, and I'm like, oh, he's related to that other rapper turned actor who is now hot shit. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Wahlberg is. I think Donnie's the better of the two, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark's kind of lost his mind too.
He really has. Hey, how you doing?
Bro, I'm sorry, bro.
He cannot snap out of it. It's like I don't know how much of that is him playing.
You make the happening. You lose some street cred on that one, Val.
There's a bit of that. Some of it's also like The Rock, and my pal Matt Porriera, the direct-to-video connoisseur, said it once where they're doing financial security. And fortunately, I don't think any of these actors have ever really had to do that. Maybe you could argue Donnie's doing that with that cop show. It's so funny. I went through a bunch of that cop show he was on, and then I thought it was over. And then next thing you know, renewed for 5 more years. I'm like, who asked for that? I know Tom.
It's the Criminal Minds.
Well, see, I love Criminal Minds, but there are 2 garbage seasons of that show. Oh my god.
Or Supernatural. Like I do like Supernatural. I will say there were like you said, like there's like 2 seasons, like 6 and 7 kind of fall off for me, but like 1 through 5 is great.
And then the later ones are actually pretty good. Kept it alive, even though the scripts were letting them down. But yeah, man.
And then when it finally died, I'm like, okay, good, you guys can rest now.
You can rest. Lick your wounds and do something new.
At least Jensen Ackles keeps busy with voice acting.
So underrated.
He does. Huh?
So underrated. So underrated. And he played Soldier Boy, for God's sakes. Come on.
Oh my god. That's part. I mean, definitely. I mean, season 3 of The Boys definitely turned it around. Season 2 kind of lost me a little bit with the. Just didn't feel like The Boys to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like season 3 of Better Call Saul, where you binge it, but it's easy to get lost because there's a lot of hallucinations and visions.
I've never watched it. Better Call Saul, so I have to jump on that. I watched like 2 seasons of Breaking Bad, and I was like, I'm done.
That's fine. That's the other thing, dude. You're not gonna piss me off because, like, I refuse to be pissed off. I see everybody else doing the.
Well,
I didn't get into that show for the longest time because I was just like, the only guys suggesting this to me are high on their own supplies and they haven't seen much. So when you tell me best show ever, that's a lot. What does that mean?
Yeah, you're stretching that a little bit. For me, it's just I look at it. There's like 12 seasons, or whatever, however long it's just like. That's just daunting to me. I look at
and
that.
Even the best show.
Jesus, I don't know.
Even the best show, you really only want to watch once, or even then, when you marathon it, you're going to be like skipping that season. It makes me too uncomfortable, or it's just meh. There wasn't anything interesting.
Yeah, it's like with the way I watched like Star Wars Rebels. Like I skipped the entire first season, I think, until like the last like 2 episodes. And then I went online. I'd find like what episodes should I watch, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to watch those episodes, and I was fine. I was done with it. I was like, cool.
Oh man, you can do that with the average show where you watch the beginning and then the middle and then the end. Boom. The recap told me everything I needed, and the rest was fillers, so didn't need it. But this was like the first thing I think I saw where it was just 10 episodes. Just collect 5 discs. Boom. Ready to go.
And I think Rome was another one that came out at this time too. And I go back and rewatch that.
Summer. Yep. I'll let you know when we're recording that. Yeah, that's
so good.
And see, that's another one. Like, I think it had the same kind of mentality. Despite having all kinds of crazy talent, John Milius of all people, kind of like Deadwood had Walter Hill direct the pilot. It is kind of one of those. Is like HBO really didn't know how good they had it.
Like it was like that. It was kind of a golden era for them.
The fact that they fired David Simon after the writer's strike, I'm like, you guys deserve to lose ratings. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
You're telling me these guys who know how to inject realism and be good writers, like They're not like some technical supervisor who, does a sci-fi or war show and then they have to have the producers come in and make their jargon be theatrical, like
Yeah, they make
I
it
don't
compelling.
yeah, I don't need to have Stephen Bochco or Aaron Sorkin punch it up now that I've laid it out as simple English as I can. But and it isn't like Star Trek or X Files where I have to predict who directed or did what episode because you can tell which one on closer inspection. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
And kudos, like I think this was one of the first shows where I saw that hey, it didn't matter who helmed it, like the same production, the same effort was delivered each time.
Yeah. And how like each episode kind of focused on one person.
Yes, very good point.
I like that a lot.
When Spears went in and killed a bunch of German prisoners, and circulate, not enough shows talk about war crimes. Obviously there's movies like Casualties of War, every other Nam film, but like that's second nature. You didn't really see it in World War II as much. Just kind of had, we're cool, man.
You have the Nazis. Usually it's the Nazis the big bad, or like Japan. I mean, they need to start with, but the problem is Japan is such a close ally of us now, even though they've never had an answer for, this little place called Nanking. People tend to forget about their whole occupation of China.
We Americans will never answer for any shit we've done. I mean,
absolutely not.
Well, I'll leave that for the very last show. I think you know where I'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, like, that is true. Like, it is just one at a time narrative, and it leads one into the next. Like, I think it's either episode 1 or 2 ends with them jumping off a plane. It's like, we got to make a run, and
I think that was episode 1. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
1 ends with them getting ready to go through D-Day.
What a way to end it. You're looking forward as a viewer to next week's. It's much like Roots, and it's much like all these other just epics. And
then you get like these like little like, then you have like the episodes with like focusing on Bull or focusing on Doc, and you have one that like you kind of like zoom in, like you still get the big feel of them all, but it's really about them, which is really cool, I think.
Totally. And you got a sense of the urgency. It's like, yeah, you're gonna have time to make one shitty joke and then back to work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, here comes incoming. Like, and I think kind of showing that it's not just a 2-hour firefight. Like, there's lulls in the combat. You're spending time like telling dick jokes and that kind of stuff. And
we were childish back then. We're childish now.
Oh yeah, you talk to any like old vet, they're like,
there's a reason it's
what did you do when you were 18 years old in the military? The same dumb shit I did. Like,
yeah, you're making a dick joke.
you guess what? There's dick drawings in bathrooms from now to back in the Roman era.
Man, when they're in the winter siege, they're having to take shelter in episodes where in places where someone might have already done their business, so to speak. And that's the harsh reality is like, be careful where you go and relieve yourself during the offensive.
And you're gonna bitch and complain the entire time, which is, I'm like, thank you for really showing that. They just like, I'm gonna suck it up, be a man. No, you're gonna bitch and complain 24/7, and nothing's gonna change. You're just doing it as a coping mechanism for how awful your situation is. Because misery loves company.
Yes. Oh man. And they did a good job having some of the British actors play Americans, especially Stephen Graham. And altogether, I mean, this was also just kind of, I miss kind of just this day and age where people would actually do their best to, again, make it look like a documentary instead of shake the camera way too much to where you're like, I cannot see a thing.
No. And then the times it is chaotic, it's like, okay, well, I understand why it's
deliberate.
Being chaotic. You're right. There's a reason behind it, but then you have like Spears just sprinting through that town, and you can just kind of watch it happen. You don't need like nowadays, if you took some director nowadays, he'd probably put that in like first person mode, and all you would hear was his mouth breathing. It's like I don't want to hear that. I want to watch it happen. I'm not trying to see in his shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much like an actual video game. I don't want that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I'll play Call of Duty. If I want that, I'll play Call of Duty. Just not online, because I don't need to hear,
Yeah,
18-year-old
I don't need
kid,
to be teabagged by a 5-year-old who shouldn't be
No,
playing this.
I was there in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in the lobby. It wasn't a good time.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know anyone who hates the spacers. I really don't.
No, I don't think so either. I've never. Usually, it's lauded as the best of these of this trio, and for good reason too. I mean, I think it comes down to more personal preference, but obviously, I think it earned everything it got, and it's like legacy that it has. It's almost timeless. It's just as good as when we watched it when we were younger, and just as good as we're watching it now.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that it's about an earlier period. So
Exactly.
Man, but some damn good directors and everything. Yeah.
Damn good directors,
set design,
actors,
props, just camera
everything.
angles showing the mood as opposed to style, which I get it. It's hard to make, and I mean, I can't even tell you the last good war movie I think I saw. Maybe The Kill Team with Alexander Skarsgård, maybe, but it's so hard to get a movie that just hasn't been done to death. No pun intended.
Yeah.
So
did you see Devotion?
Devotion.
With Glenn Powell and
I did see that. Yeah, with Jonathan Majors. Yeah.
Jonathan Majors. Yeah. I absolutely love that movie, but I also read the book too on it, and the production of that was even crazy too. And
I bet.
Yeah,
it's actually.
I mean, considering they got.
It's mystifying how long a lot of these are in development hell, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that a lot of time, I think too, these people. I mean, war movies are hard to pin down, man. People love or hate them, and now I don't think people want them as much.
I think people remember the bad ones, and I'm like, trust me, this is not Pearl Harbor or Wind Talkers, where you're seeing people do insane shit.
Exactly. At least Wind Talkers had an excuse in having John Woo,
right,
and Nick Cage. Like, okay, let's see what's gonna happen here. Like, it's more of like morbid curiosity. With Pearl Harbor, it's like, well, something happens at Pearl Harbor, so I guess they got that part right. But that's about it. That's about as close as they get.
From Here to Eternity, it is not, and I don't even like that one.
No, if you just watch From Here to Eternity, if you're gonna watch Pearl Harbor, like when you have to compete with Tora, don't try. Leave it to the adults in the room. Michael Bay, go do your 360 slow-mo shot of screaming.
He seems to get it recently with what's the one 37 Hours, I think.
Oh yeah.
Now he's back to doing Bad Boys and Rock type movies.
13 hours.
13 hours, yeah.
Which actually, I will stand by that movie. It actually is very well done.
But it's just like you say, it's just we're gonna. I mean, you were talking Roland Emmerich movies earlier. It does seem like, well, I think it helps that we've seen all these people who have had scandals like Bryan Singer, where we realize, it's really only about the team, and it's really not. Everyone keeps thinking it's the cameras, it's the money, and it's like, well, it's really the attitude on set.
Yeah,
and sometimes a lot of our movies that are supposedly good were crapshoots, and they found it in the editing room. So I mean, I hope a lot of people keep realizing he's like, every bad filmmaker has a good movie, even good filmmakers have a dud. So I mean, it really doesn't matter who helms it. Is like, what's the attitude? I can be a good teacher, but if I have a class that's not willing to learn, it's gonna be a shit show.
Exactly. Yeah, and I I've never been on a movie set, so I couldn't tell you. But
they
I
can
can
be very
definitely.
chaotic.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, no, I do take that back. I was an extra once in this
Extra
show
live.
called yeah, right. It was not Southland. What the hell is this called? Graceland. Um, it was a like undercover narcotics show on USA.
Oh yeah. With some
Yeah,
guy.
so
Yeah,
yeah. So like
I saw that. I
I
skipped
got
through
well, I got like somehow got the hookup, not a hookup, but like we're looking for extras to play SWAT team guys.
that. They
Like
called the
I was
best.
like, I've done this stuff before. You go down, you make your $500, whatever how much it is. But yeah, it was chaotic. It was a lot of sitting around.
Yeah,
It was like,
I could not do
okay,
that
you guys are
nowadays. I could do it back
no,
then, but
absolutely not. I'm like, I'm good. The food
if
was
you
good
don't
though,
need me, you don't need. Yeah, that's the other thing that often makes up for it. It's like, oh, but the food's
and
good.
I had to drive down. I had to drive to Miami, which is about a 2 hour drive for me, and I
Oh,
hate driving
fuck.
in Miami because Miami is where traffic laws go to die.
Mm.
And there's you have mixture of Cuban, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Haitian, Honduran, and then Caucasian. So it's like a melting pot of languages, and nobody speaks the same language. The roads don't make sense. Nothing makes sense down there. It's the further south you go in Florida, that's more of just good luck.
Yikes. Mhm. Oh, sorry. Oh, what was us? What was us? So here we are with the Pacific 2010 follow up. So this was, I'll be frank, this was one I started and then I finished like 5 years later. Three different regiments, the 1st, 5th, and 7th First Marine Division, and it was dreamed up by Band of Brothers writer Bruce C. McKenna. And I was already a fan of James Badgedale. He had been on Rescue Me 24. You might know him as one of the moles in The Departed.
Mm-hmm.
He's been, in fact, he was even in 13 Hours.
What the hell? Hold the Dark, 13 Hours.
Yep. Yeah, he's like the best thing about the Lone Ranger garbage movie. Like
I've never seen it, and I don't have any plans on ever watching it.
You never need to, but I mean, like he's in The Conspirator.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, the best part is he's in like the first 5 minutes as the brother who dies at the beginning, so he has an epic moment. He wins. You can't say he's the worst part. He's the best. But
he's the best. He got his paycheck and left.
Yeah, but he's been on 1923, the Yellowstone spinoff, as well as Hightown for Stars, and yeah, he always came off to me as just like just very reasonable guy, just down to play.
Man.
He used to be in construction, and that's how he approached acting.
Oh, like I see him. I follow him on Instagram, and it's usually just him running on the beach with his dog. I'm like,
sweet,
good for you, good for you. Like Henry Cavill, you just see him hanging out with his dog at his computer, painting.
Yeah, if someone tells me he assaulted someone, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna need to see
sure
more
about
than just that.
That's let's find out all the evidence first. Same thing like James Badgedale.
He's got curly hair. I don't think he doesn't come off to me as a shady type who wants to hide behind lawyers and fame.
No, it's funny. Like James Badgedale, when he's not acting, he looks kind of like a Southern Californian hobo. Like you see him like he's bearded, long hair with like that. Your Parker smells like patchouli probably. You probably know where to get some really good shrimp tacos though.
He probably has lived every kind of life, so I think that's maybe why he gets it. He is so fortunate, so he's not going to misbehave like some of these other guys who had nothing, and then the minute they got famous, they became an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Never talked
and he
to
also
anyone they went to school with.
Cool thing about him, he actually narrates Robert Leckie's book for audiobook.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was like,
reaching out.
Cool.
That's something.
Yeah.
That's
Helmet
cool.
for my pillow. That's what it's called. Helmet for my pillow. Oh, My helmet was a pillow. Something along those lines.
Nice. So I'm gonna get to the good. There's lots of good. Don't get me wrong in all these, but I just I think you start off with Tom Hanks narrating it, so that's getting you back in the mood. You have John Cena as John Basilone, who was
You have
a Medal of Honor winner in real life. You probably know him from top show roles on Homicide and Chicago Fire PD. But yeah, I had always heard his name, and he had popped up in a bunch of stuff like Selena and Bad Boys 2. But it was one of those I didn't really know the face. I just kind of like Giancarlo Esposito early on. I heard that name. I didn't know who you look like, but I knew you were a thing because you're in all these prominent, popular. He's the first guy who dies on Oz.
Kind of person.
He's Dino on Oz, and he's the first guy who dies. So yeah, lots of big directors. X-Files director David Nutter, Carl Franklin, who you might know from some of the better Denzel Washington suspense films. Graham Yost even directed an episode, so he went again. For a man who's written blockbusters like The Last Castle and Speed, and then part of the writing staff on these shows, and then he gets to be in the director's chair. I applaud him. I've been listening to the 50 Miles Per Hour podcast, and it's just what a man who's just. I see so many writers who also grow a big head, and he is just one of those. He is just so happy to just, again, bring any kind of vision to life. He's very patient because he realizes how long the development process is, and he's all about just, I'll rewrite it if it's not working, just, and that's why he's had so many co-credits on better or lesser movies, because he also has he was a script doctor for a while. So I think it's just cool to see people like that finally in the chair.
I think guys and this is why I think David Ayers doesn't get enough credit for his writing. His movies are definitely hit or miss, but his writing, I think, is really good. Like, he knows how to write more because of his time. I think a lot of it comes from his time in the military and being in close quarters with people.
He is very studious.
Personal relationships. Unfortunately, he gets stuck with some really shitty directors for his work.
Correct.
I think.
Yep. Oh, and I've actually been
Bright, which Bright could have been pretty good, but unfortunately, he gets stuck with a shitty. Who is it?
He helmed it, but he has Max Landis.
Max Landis,
John Landis' son. So you're just like, fire that guy. You should have rewrite.
Like Suicide Squad, you could tell Suicide Squad was just written like that wasn't his vision.
I've been fortunate enough to talk to him on Twitter.
Okay, he seems like a cool guy.
Yes, and very, very active. He's very. I've been so fortunate with him and even Lou Diamond Phillips of all people, and just they are all about their brand, but they are not about over marketing themselves or giving artificial answers and letting their team respond, animatronically. Like it is like, I am putting it all behind me. I am moving on. He reminds me of Robert Towne as just someone who's done all kinds of genres. And since he's close to it, he's willing to even talk shit about it himself if he sees something that he could do better. And so for that point on, he's like, no, I'm going back to narc movies. I'm not doing any more superhero shit anymore.
Different. Yeah. That's what I keep doing Fury. Maybe another, I defend you 571 only as a movie. Historically, it's not accurate at all.
Yeah.
But as a movie, it's a damn good.
The Guns and Navarone film.
It's a damn fun movie to watch.
Yeah. It's not a.
You don't watch it for the historical significance, but it's a good movie. I will say it's a competent. It's a competent movie. It's fun to watch, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about. Sorry, I derailed us. We're talking about the Pacific.
It's fine. So this one, I had no doubt about any of the accuracy and everything. I think, but once again, because I just seen so many just in the Philippines fighting movies, there weren't any battles that really stood out to me, and I could tell the characters apart, but I didn't find any of their arcs very interesting. But they were well cast and well acted. It was just kind of meh to decent for me. It didn't.
That's fair. I accept that criticism. It for me is I like it. It's kind of like Predator 2 and Predator 1. Predator 1, perfect movie. Predator 2, I actually enjoy watching it more than Predator 1,
Oh,
but it's not a better movie than Predator 1, if that makes sense. Only be so like the Pacific, I enjoy watching it more because it's just visceral. There's a lot. And me being a Marine, like kind of a little bit more partial to it, but I think Band of Brothers is better in terms of more character development. You get invested in more characters. With the Pacific, it's the main point of views is Eugene Sledge
yeah.
and Robert Leckie, which are the two sources they pulled from. So they pulled.
So what do you believe in? I believe in ammunition. I've never been more scared in my entire life.
Every damn foot we go south, they'll get meaner and meaner. You better get mean, too, boo.
I don't want to look in your eyes someday and see no spark, no love, no life. That would break my heart.
Here we go, boys!
Look at me! You wanna live? Get off the beach! Move!
History is full of wars, fought for 100 reasons. But this war, our war, well, I want to believe, I have to believe. Every man that's wounded, every man I lose, that it's all worthwhile because our cause is just.
From Robert Leckie, Helmet for My Pillow, and then Eugene Sledge's In with the Old Breed, or Out with the Old Breed, I think it was, or In with the Old Breed.
Something like that. I guess because it had been done to death,
like that.
I couldn't really tell any arc apart. I was just like, and in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they're gonna be banging a pretty nurse or chef, and then they're gonna go to war.
And none of that really happens. It's pretty miserable. But then it's like, yeah, life in the South Pacific was awful, just awful. There's no way around it. It was you were die. You were either getting killed by Japanese, you were getting attacked by malaria, dysentery, jungle rot, like this thing called jungle rot, which just sounds awful. On top of having the wrong equipment. Like, this is true. The Marine Corps, well, with the kind of range,
they do explain some of that.
Hand-me-downs.
I guess I just forget about it because they go back to having a dinner conversation followed by them in the trenches. So I guess, I don't know. I guess the editing just took me out of it.
It's a little scattershot.
No pun.
Exactly. But there are moments that I really do appreciate, and me kind of nerding out a little bit here, like
some of the
when they're on Guadalcanal, when they're on Guadalcanal, and you see Robert Leckie watching and the other Marines watching that naval engagement. Well, that was the Battle of Iron Bottom Sound, which was a main channel that the Japanese used to resupply their troops on Guadalcanal, and then we had a carrier group watching that area, and the big explosion was a Japanese ship. I think it was called the Atasuki. I think it was the I can't something along the lines. Basically,
I don't know.
A Katsuki. That's what it was. I think it was a Japanese cruiser. Basically, an American round punctured the magazine and blew that thing all to hell.
That's it.
Yeah. So that naval engagement has one of my favorite ships of all time. I'm a huge destroyer fan. Like, I love because basically there's these tiny
anytime I watch a movie, I always look up the compliment. So I'm like, damn, they just got 400 kills.
Yeah, pretty much. It was the USS Laffey, which was I call it the ship that was too angry to die, because what happened was the Japanese flagship, it was a Konga class battleship. So basically, the battleship size was lower than the Yamamoto class, which obviously was one of the largest battleships. Had engaged the American forces, and the USS San Francisco, which was the capital ship of that group. And here comes the Laffey, this little tiny destroyer with 5-inch guns just comes in and just starts blasting this battleship, this Congo class battleship. It was, and they their 5-inch guns couldn't penetrate the hull, but they targeted the bridge. So they actually blew up the bridge, and then it was said they were so close that the Japanese guns couldn't traverse down to shoot the Laffy, and the guys were so close that they actually engaged with their personal weapons.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So it was instead
and
of
then the
just
Laffy went on
standing around waiting to get bombed. Yeah.
The Laffy was just like, full send, like just absolutely like I laugh every time I read about it. And then later on, the Laffy actually took like 12 kamikaze hits, kept on ticking. Like the ship was literally too angry to die. But that makes sense. The U.S. Navy's destroyers were just they played a big part. And then the Battle of Guadalcanal itself. The Battle of Guadalcanal itself is a big part of Marine Corps history because that's where John Bass won his Medal of Honor. He basically repaired and got 3 machine guns down that were down.
He is given a lot to do, so I do applaud casting of that. I would probably say this is somewhere up there as one of the better shows about the Iwo Jima invasion. I still love Letters from Iwo Jima, probably the best. But it's just, I guess I'm spoiled. I've just seen so many movies where there's nothing happening. It's like I know nothing's gonna happen, but but the final, I want to say 3 episodes I think are pretty electric.
I think Sledge's story is more interesting than Lecky's. Because you got this sick kid from Alabama who he just wants to go fight a war.
Yeah.
And
Good old Alabama. Yeah. But and Mazzello, there's a Spielberg kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was Tim Murphy in Jurassic Park.
That's right, yeah.
Because from that,
he was fighting velociraptors to fighting Japanese.
There you go. To fighting Zuckerberg and the Social Network. But
I mean, I've only seen that like one time, only because I'm not a huge Jesse Eisenberg fan. He kind of, you're a kid that deserves a swirly. Like shoved into a locker.
You did your job too good.
Yeah, you did. You're like,
you sir.
I don't know if you're playing a character. That's just who you are.
Yeah, it's like that one scene in Ferris Bueller where he's doing the prank calls. You sir are an asshole. Oh man. So there's some bunker life. It's not really delved into as much, but the battles, they're on fire. They are showing you, because like you said earlier, it's big detail on what's actually on the carriers, how they infiltrate the islands, how the enemy is on scene most of the time, and by the time you react, it's too fucking late. You've lost a leg. Half your fleet's gone down.
I think it's more visceral than Band of Brothers.
Oh my god.
Band of Brothers definitely has its share of, gore and bullet wounds and that, but just the Pacific, I think, just kind of amps it up a little bit more. Where they lack in character, I don't say character development, a little bit of character development, just they definitely make up for it.
But I didn't know
they make up for it in the gun porn and the battles and
fair enough.
I think so.
Fair enough. I will definitely rewatch it.
And just how shitty like the island hopping campaign was.
Well, that's just it too. Like, if anything, that's why I keep going back to Private Ryan. Is like they're not so much an anti-war movie as they are just it sucks. It sucks. Don't ever enlist. Don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just sad they didn't include the devil duck that the Marines somehow won. They won a duck in a poker game, and it came with them at the Battle of Tarawa.
Like an actual duck?
A duck. Wow. I think his name was like Siwash or something like that. Some drunk Marines won it in New Zealand when they were on leave and took it with them. I think it was Singapore. Not Singapore. I think it was Battle
went to Thailand to get a TIE fighter.
That they took it on, and the duck actually attacked a Japanese chicken and beat it up apparently. And like it's kind of like one of those weird tall tales, but the Marines also force fed it beer and smoked cigarettes.
Holy shit.
So
how?
I guess that's why they tell us don't fuck with the wildlife.
Munich told us don't fuck with the Jews. Every other Save the Environment says don't mess with the wildlife. I guess this just says don't mess with the carriers. I don't know. Don't mess with
don't
the
fuck with the
gamblers.
boats.
Don't sink my battleship. I'll come laden. Oh man.
There's plenty of the I think it was like a office meme. It's like, well, Jim, why'd you drop a bomb? Drop 2 bombs on me. Well, you fucked with my boats. With America's boats.
Oh man. It's America's ass. No, it's different.
If you fuck with our boats, you'll quickly find out why we don't have free healthcare.
Those are okay, nice things. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh man. So years go by. Literally wow, I can't believe it. So 14 years go by. We get 2024's Masters of the Air.
So you're happy?
A girl worth riding to is hard to find.
Not if you know where to look.
I'll miss you every second.
Major Egan, you were the first pilot assigned to the 100th.
Me and Buck Levy.
You are in charge of 35 planes and 350 air crewmen.
Don't you die on me before I get over there. Something big is brewing.
The 8th will be sending up the largest air armada ever assembled in the history of mankind.
Straight into Hitler's territory.
We need complete and total air superiority. That's the mission.
What? You might be the last pretty face I ever see.
What's the move? We lead our boys through it.
All that we do, day in, day out, does something to a guy, doesn't it?
We're here to fight the monsters. The things these people are capable of. And they got it coming. Trust me.
Lord, guard and guide the men who fly through the great spaces of the sky.
Are we Tuskegee men or what?
Sir, yes, sir! Be with them traversing the air in darkening storms or sunshine fair.
I think we may be done. We are gonna sit here and take it. We're gonna stick with our mission as long as we can fly.
We won't go without a fight.
I was hyped for this shit. Apple TV was taken off,
too.
and it gets delayed due to COVID, and then they're like, you still gotta wait another year, we're in post. I'm like, fucking hell, this better be good. So a little background, Blake Neely was one of the composers for Pacific Returns. I've always liked a lot of his video game and TV themes, but like I don't know why, like I feel like crying all day just listening to this. He's done all kinds of stuff, including Into the West for TNT, Everwood, and just innumerable genres, like just all kinds of stuff to where you're like, yeah, so you're good at quiet moments, action moments, epic moments, freaky moments. Tim Van Patten, actor turned director, returns. We get Kerry Goji Fukunaga, who you might know from True Detective Season 1 and one of the worst James Bond movies of all time. He directs the first 3 episodes. D. Reyes, who you might know from Bessie and Pariah, another indie darling, comes on here. And then Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who are also indie darlings who you might know from Half Nelson and Mississippi Grind, and it's kind of a funny story. Obviously, all the millennials only know him from Captain Marvel, but come on, guys, that's a merc job. That's not my vision. I do this with Scott Derrickson, where I'm like, there's a reason he left Doctor Strange. That was his mainstream movie. Then he goes back to doing what he wants to do. So way more rounded out, developed by Band of Brothers co-writer John Orloff and Donald L. Miller, who's been an advisor in various PBS and HBO stuff. Is the book they're adapting it from. And lo and behold, co-creator John Shaban, who is now currently the showrunner on Law & Order Organized Crime, but you might know from also being a lot of the more unusual Breaking Bad and X-Files episodes. He is that guy. So this was unusual for him. I was like, whoa, so he is running the writer's room this session instead of having it be just a bunch of quirky characters in a bizarre sci-fi horror premise. So were you familiar with any of these actors? I know it was kind of getting hyped up because Austin Butler was
not really
around the same.
It wasn't until
go ahead.
It wasn't until like they really started showing like Austin Butler showing up. I'm like, oh, okay, well he was great in Elvis. I mean, they didn't show the more seedier side of Elvis, but I thought he was. I was like, who that? Like, he kind of came out of fucking nowhere. Like, who is this kid?
This Disney kid. Didn't see any of that.
No.
And here he is now. And very good special features for anyone who goes to the Apple Plus page. There's like 2 different ones. They do a good job of. It reminds me of the Sci-Fi Channel Battlestar, where they're showing you how they're. Fortunately, we're now in a projected digital world post Mandalorian, but they're still on actual sets that are shaking to simulate the plane scenes.
Yeah.
And even though this is CGI, like it worked for me because I was just like, but they're rushing it really fast and they're having it serve the story as opposed to looking half-assed or just spending too much time trying to be like some other recent, subgenre. My sister recognized Callum Turner, who plays Bucky Egan, the other major. He's the one who, at the end, they reveal, highly ranked. He became kind of the new base supervisor. But yeah, he's always kind of the flat face. He's just like, well, that doesn't sound like a good plan. And people will know him from the Capture miniseries, which I still have yet to watch, as well as Fantastic Beasts. But yeah, Austin Butler, it was wild how, Elvis hits and it's supposed to kind of come out around that same time. And then now it's like everyone wants him to be in all these epics, but I feel like it's a role anyone could have played Buck, but I feel like he was very at home. Like he was.
I think he had the look of it. He kind of had that 50.
Yes.
He has a very classic
James
look to
Dean
him.
kind of look.
Yeah.
And they kind of go back to Band of Brothers, where it's like they have their actions speak for themselves, and that overcomes kind of the predictability because at least you feel like the filmmakers, it's not like you're on primetime TV and I gotta struggle to make this not end so obviously every week. Like I felt like they were just like, hey, how about we stage it this way? Show the base commander he's getting his milk and he's just had a heart attack and these guys feel for him, even though he just ripped him a new one and they're still mad at him the previous day. He was a good man, so and kind of back to the rough and tough in the barracks without being just so soapy or like no shit, Sherlock. I did experience a lot of questions from family members and I don't know, I feel like it explained enough for me is like, yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with Tuskegee. It helps that there's 2 different movies about him, but like, and yeah, sorry guys, there is not enough. There will never be enough of an apology for all the we thank them, all the airmen, later by having them participate in the experiments. It was like, yeah, that we can never forget that. And
no, and and unfortunately, I mean, the two movies that we do have I mean, they're very different too, because
Yeah.
the one with Lawrence Fishburne.
But here's the actual footage, you know?
Yeah, there's actual footage, and it shows more of like their earlier days, whereas Red Tail shows their time in theater, which
well, look what we can do in 3D.
I have a lot of problems with Red Tails.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it was bad.
It tried to be too modern.
Oh yeah,
it was bad.
And the trailers were
CGI
like, "Let's have rap music play because that's historically accurate."
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's like, oh god, you guys don't have to try to be too modernized. Let's scale it back. We're in the 1940s. Like, no, didn't work. Yeah, there's not enough out there for them.
And to your earlier point, like when they capture them, they do a good job of just showing it without, again, having to ram it home to you. Like the prisoners are refusing to sit together, you know, because of their different race and like see. Okay,
oh yeah, no, racism knows no ends.
Absolutely, they are related only by the fact that they are Americans who are captured. That ends there, and it just, they did a good job of really showing it without sugarcoating it and saying, well, they're not all bad. I'm like, yeah, well, some of them were probably thinking it. You know, it just was a part of the time.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure Buck didn't want to hang out with him. So let's not waste time talking about who he does or doesn't want to hang out with. Let's just focus on what is fascinating about these guys. And I saw I kid you not, like opening week when it came out, I saw so many people roasting this show. I saw people calling it formulaic. I saw one person saying, I can't tell any of them apart. I'm like, really? Okay. Whatever.
I do have my problems with it. I think, me personally, I think what we were kind of promised with it didn't really fully. I mean, there were moments.
Oh, good.
Like I tell people, like, episode 3, just wait till episode 3, guys. That's where it kicks off, and then you have the one mission.
Were you doing it once a week or?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. My problem is I binge.
Okay. Yeah, I once a week I was right there. Me and my buddy, like, we all.
I think
like
the first 2
going on about it.
They should have just had the first 2 episodes be the pilot. I think that would have probably gotten people more of a feel instead of have to. With this, I'm just glad I did 2 a night, just because I would have again had trouble remembering everybody's name.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like they did too many shortcuts, and I guess I forgave it just because. Just throw away the talent aside. Let's just say you don't know who this is by and everything. I just felt like, regardless of what they delivered on, I just felt like they were actually trying to, for lack of a better word, like just get the feeling down. Just be as anti-aircraft as they can. It's like, these fuckers are going down. There's no pride in going up in the air. They are going to be toast by the end of the battle. So I didn't feel like it was a Top Gun knockoff or anything where there's like, see, we're cool, man. We're suiting up. So
no, I mean, they're bomber pilots too. So it's now, if it was more about like the fighter pilots, like definitely like that was a personality about them too.
And once again, just more of the flirting with people. But I liked how the nurses had a little more to do here instead of just being easy lay. In fact, one of them, I guess, didn't they say Bucky had a girl at home?
Yeah.
So there you go. Sorry, I'm cheating overseas.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different time, am I right?
Different time.
Next day.
Fell in love with a French girl.
It's like exactly, you run into your estranged half brother and sister. You know.
Oh Jesus.
That could have happened. I don't know. I mean, my grandfather served in Burma and Korea, so who knows? Guam. Excuse me, Guam.
Making his acting debut, Sawyer Spielberg. It's Lieutenant Roy, who. Well, so here's where it kind of becomes a spy show halfway through.
It does.
By the way, you can't even name the right baseball game. We know you're the spy. So that got a little convoluted for me, but I did go back and rewatch some of it. And I was like, see, I like the staging of that. But
yeah,
you guys.
I was like, what the fuck? you did kind of get that what the fuck moment, like oh shit. I really wish we got more airtime. I really wish we did, man. I don't. the thing with the prisoners, like, yeah, that's that's cool because you have these first two characters you're kind of hanging on, like, cool, fire. But it seemed like it became more of a prisoner of war story to me than a bomber crew story. And I was like, I'm just gonna watch Static 17 instead.
Ouch.
Yeah. And I heard a lot of people compare this to Memphis Belle, and Memphis Belle isn't really that historically accurate, but at least you're with the crew the entire time.
I think it was more the conversation it opened versus the historical relevance, of which there's very little.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah.
it was. This is weird. It's kind of like with Tarantino. Like Tarantino doesn't exist without all the tasteless drive-in movies, And
yeah,
and so with these movies, it's like, yeah,
you're always going to
like,
compare to what came before.
There's got to be one side of it. I mean, look at all the virtual reality movies. Look at all the other horror anthologies that got it right, and others that were just gross and yucky and annoying waste of time. And so, yeah, I feel like war movies, everybody's seen like an ounce of them just because they were just so prominently on antenna channels. And kind of like how I was with Pacific, I can see how you are with this, where it's like there's just so many 12 o'clock high type movies where it's like, yeah, I've seen it. Good job on the claustrophobia, but like you say, not really enough of it. So I will give you that. I need a little more.
Yeah, like when they introduced the P-51s, like, why don't you just have an episode about the P-51 pilots or about their operations? Oh, this is He Airmen. Like, you could have really done a lot more with them. So you meet them, they're flying P-40s, which they did. They flew that was in Italy that squadron was based out of.
They do illustrate the maps and everything, but I will give you this. Did anyone else who were watching this get a little confused about how they kept track of the various flights? I felt like they kind of skipped over a lot of that key detail.
I think they did. I think their first mission that they were playing, it was kind of neat to show like the different stacks and like which altitude the bomber stacks were in. I was like, okay,
they did good at outlining the plans and making you, the viewer, feel like you're trapped in that isolated, grim room. Here, these guys are all either losing their lunch or just had too many drinks, and they still got to get their shit together and get briefed for tomorrow.
You'd be pretty much every book I've read about pilots. Like, there's one time where they get drunk, they're hungover, and they go into their aircraft and they suck on the oxygen so they could sober up.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah, some of the greatest aces of all time were
we
hungover
we didn't know about biohacking or how you should warm up before you go for a jog.
No, we don't smoke a cigarette, take a shot of whiskey and you're good to go. But they did have, but that's one thing they did do. Like when you come in from your flight, you use a shot of whiskey, calm your nerves. Don't know if that's medically sound now, but hey, if it worked, it worked.
I think it helped that also Major Red, as well as the various lieutenants, were good at just reminding everybody, hey, by the way, this plan's fucked. So it's like, okay, cool. You're not sugarcoating it. You're not having the whole, cut to, trumpets. We can't win this. It's like, well, no shit, you can't win this. Just tell us how and why.
Right. Like, okay, Buck, just look pouty into the screen and look off in
the flag
horizon. Exactly. Yeah. I did appreciate how they did show like Rosie Rosenthal, and then how like he became like the Buck lieutenant, and one of his first missions is everyone dies around you and you have to make it back.
Oh yeah. Okay, so, and what squadron was he again? He was yeah. They're part of the squad that jumps out and gets to hide in the farms. So I did like that aspect because I don't really see enough of it. I see some of it, but it's often reserved for movies that are all about the stealth and the infiltration, like something like Defiance or some other Navarone movie. And I liked how they're having to. I mean, Bucky by the last 2 episodes is having to pretend to play dead and then, in between distractions, in between local. I liked how there was accidental bombings. It's like there's an actual accountability of, hey, there's going to be friendly fire or actual civilians getting killed as opposed to actual Germans.
Yeah, and they didn't shy away from showing that this is a war.
And
that
so
we're
when they
fighting.
get
Like,
down there, an angry mob is there, is like, you rapists, you pillagers, we're gonna beat you to death, we're gonna shank you.
they're like, well, I'm not gonna stand in the way of you guys getting killed.
Yeah.
You're gonna die eventually.
But when they have to pretend to play dead, and then run like hell into the woods, it's like Jesus.
Yeah, and then now you have to try to find your way back.
Good job
to
on the
friendly
Foley.
lines.
I've felt that rock hitting.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh.
And the music was just right instead of the cut to slow motion.
Yeah. It was more of a sense of
It wasn't a
urgency.
crappy 90s movie.
Exactly. Thank you. I mean, it could be worse. It could be like new metal.
Oh, shit.
Or, Linkin Park or something.
Oh, I love Linkin Park. But yeah, that would have sucked. Don't play Linkin Park in a movie like this. Oh.
If Michael Bay directed an episode.
He would have probably played, I don't know, Poison or Girls.
Oh, God.
You're
Oh,
like,
my God.
what is going on?
Put Michael Bay back in the corner.
Guy
Go play
Ritchie
with
just did
the toys.
Guy Ritchie just did something with Henry Cavill. I'm glad it wasn't that way.
Yeah. Which I can't wait to see that movie too. But yeah, I mean, it had moments, and it's not a bad series. Like, it's not directed badly. It's not written. It's not. I mean,
Maybe they could have
nothing that makes
marketed it better.
I just wish there was. Well, I was expecting. I guess I got my hopes up because I am an aerophile. I love
No, it's fine. I thought the Tuskegee were going to be a bigger part, and they left him for the third part of the tell because I felt like they.
And they were very short. It's like, so you get your P-40s, you do your ground attack runs, and then you get your P-51s. Granted, that squadron that they focused on was operating in southern Italy, so they wouldn't have hooked up with the bombers. But the whole story of the Tuskegee Airmen was their dedication to the bomber groups. So why didn't we not focus on the squadron that did that? Like, that's not cool. Like, guys,
not cool. I mean, so in many ways, I feel like these are kind of all parts of the same coin. I mean, you can get this with Vietnam-themed movies by Oliver Stone. Which one is his best? Which one is his weakest? I was that way with Clint Eastwood's Iwo Jima double feature, where it was like, okay, I didn't learn anything I didn't already know from Flags, but Letters, oh, I was crying and talking about it for days. It's just the aspect, the angle, the perspective.
In fact, it's focusing on the Japanese instead of the Americans, and
the Americans, I sure, the Native American guy who helped raise the flag, that was cool, but the rest was just seeing bad CGI destroyers getting blown apart. So I was like,
and then you had Ken Watanabe, which he's always a treat.
That man is a method actor. He could tell me he's an actual, like, he actually worked with, like, I don't know, the Yakuza or Samurai, and I would believe it. But when he's having to go home and instruct that soldier, you will now kill the dog so that you have no distractions. I'm like, good fucking God. It's just like,
are you acting now, or is this? You've done this before.
And then how only he can kill himself. He's like, nope, not going to give you that satisfaction. I'm escaping this hellhole. Just the cold reality and different perspectives of it was just, and don't get me wrong, war movies are hard. I think audiences are getting callous because they just want blood and guts and no material.
And the entire world is exploding around us with multiple wars. We just got
out of a 20-year war. And then there's sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I don't know.
And I think that's why World War II kind of works, because we're so far removed from that time.
We're removed, then we're also kind of, I kind of look at it this way. Like, Vietnam, you can really, really fuck up really bad.
Yeah.
World War II, you can do a good one or a bad one, and no one cares either way. It's like, it's just entertainment at this point.
And I think because there's still Vietnam veterans alive. It's
oh man.
Whereas World War II, they're starting to they're not around. Not many of them are around anymore.
I mean, it's hard to believe that how movies like Casualties of War actually got blasted at the time. Like, people were just like, "That's a fucking garbage movie," even though it was recounting an actual hate crime committed by soldiers. And then you get other ones like We Were Soldiers, where they detail some of it, but you kind of like a little more. I'm like, I kind of would like to see more of the Viet Cong instead of just like
Have you
two
seen
scenes.
Have you seen Danger Close?
Yes, with Travis Fimmel. That was okay. Nice.
I enjoyed it. My family's Australian, or part of it's Australian, and I had an uncle that served in Vietnam in the Australian military. Yep. Oh, I'm a mutt through and through.
He will probably like Attack Force Z, I take it.
What is it?
Attack Force Z, which is a World War II movie.
Okay.
Showing up, which with an all Australian cast, including a young Mel Gibson and Sam Neill, and they're fighting in the Philippines again. But long story short, is better known as the movie that made the cinematographer of Predator get on Hollywood's map.
I'll have to track that one down.
But it's a very Akira Kurosawa kind of Seven Samurai movie. They come into a village and they clean up shop. But I feel like a lot of movies go for that inevitable angle, and sometimes they're good, and other times you're like, yeah, it's not holding my interest, but it was pretty brutal in those last 30 minutes.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up